Hi, and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 323, and today's date is March 25th, 2014. And the title of this episode is, As the Economy Implodes, the President is Concerned Over Exploding Nukes in New York. And we'll get into that a little bit later in this report. But before I get started, those people who are trying to get to the X22Report.com site, if you couldn't get to it and you're getting that 500 error message, that should be fixed now. The site was getting hammered with a lot of traffic, and the host could not support that, so they were restricting a lot of the processes there. But if you didn't see this message, just ignore what I'm saying. Let's get right into the economic collapse news, and we're going to head out to Germany. And what they're saying is that their business confidence has fallen in Germany because of the Ukraine crisis, and a Munich-based Economic Research Institute said its monthly confidence index has dropped to 110.7 points this month from 111.3 in February. Now, of course, all these sanctions are going back and forth between Russia, Europe, United States, and these are just on individuals, not on businesses for the most part, but not on countries, I should say. And they're very worried, but maybe this really has to do with the economy, and maybe that's why business confidence is down at this point. Now, in the UK, the Royal Mail announced that they're going to cut 1,600 more jobs. Britain's main postal operator has unveiled plans to slash 1,600 jobs in a desperate attempt to reduce its annual costs. Now, they're saying they're going to improve delivery, it's going to be better quality, but again, as they continue to lay off people, you know what happens. Quality goes down because you don't have enough people delivering mail. And again, this is due to the economy. This is why businesses start to lay off, to close, to shrink, and we can see this happening all over the world at this time. Now, here in the United States, again, all eyes on the stock market, consumer confidence jumps to 6-year high. I mean, the people are seeing the Fed tapering, the stock market is at all-time highs, consumers have not been this exuberant since January of 2008, and that should make every single person worry. Because what happened in 2008? Well, in January, February, the Fed was out there saying that they are not forecasting a recession, and we had a recession. They told us the subprime was contained, and we had a subprime securities problem. Real estate went down the tubes. Retail went down the tubes. American people lost 38% of their wealth. So what we're seeing right now are people looking at the stock market, believing the government that we are in a recovery, the housing market's bouncing back, retail's bouncing back, unemployment is at 6.7%. The president's out there saying, we need to create more jobs like we've been doing to bring this unemployment down and give everyone jobs. But again, this is an illusion. It's a complete illusion, just like it was in 2008. Now, the USDA is expecting food prices to go up. Now, I don't know about you. I've been seeing food prices go up. I've been seeing it on milk. I've been seeing it on coffee. I've been seeing it on meat. I've been seeing it on wine. I've been seeing it everywhere. I've been seeing products shrink to keep the prices the same. But they're saying that from their various measures of U.S. food prices, we expect the food prices to rise around 3.5% in 2014, since in 2013, food really didn't go up at all. I don't know. I've been seeing it go up, and I'm sure you have too. I track it on the X22Report.com site, and we've been seeing prices go up. They stayed level, but products shrink, so the prices can stay the same. Now, Walmart is having problems with their sales, and of course they blamed it on, in 2013, in the beginning of the year, they blamed it on the tax returns because people weren't getting their tax returns. Then they blamed it on the food stamp reduction. Again, this is due to the economy. People don't have the money to go out and just buy things. They don't have the disposable income. They don't have the employment. But they believe, and they believe their own propaganda probably, that the economy is recovering, and the reason why they're doing poorly is because of food stamps. And if their entire business is based on the poor with food stamp, or people who are put in a position where they needed to get food stamp and they're no longer receiving the same amount, then this is kind of a poor business model. But they're trying to bounce back and change their marketing by going after grocery sales online, and Walmart's going to launch an online tool called Savings Catcher, which allows consumers to compare Walmart's prices on groceries with those of competing local supermarkets. And again, this is how they're building up their business, because they realize everybody needs food, and they're trying to give food away at cheap prices, and they're trying to bring more people into Walmart, and this is why they're trying to do this. Now, we know retail is declining. We see stores closing all over the place. This is not a surprise to anyone. The holiday season was a disaster. Most Americans went into they used up whatever they had on their credit cards, and that declined. Credit card usage declined during the holiday season. Then they went into their savings and pulled out money out of the savings just to kind of have a happy holiday season. But after that, we saw stores start to close because, again, they didn't have the sales because people just don't have the money. Walgreens right now is going to close 76 unprofitable stores. Walgreens says its fiscal second quarter earnings slipped from last year. Well, of course they did, because unemployment came down since 2012, and this is why you're doing worse. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Unemployment in 2012 was hovering around 8%. Unemployment in 2013 was at 6.6%. Shouldn't stores be doing better? But again, it's an illusion. It's completely fake, and this is why you're seeing all this happen. Now, in the housing market, again, we have to remember, back in 2013, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, they were all laying off people in their mortgage departments, thousands upon thousands of people. Mortgage companies are closing all over the country. Why? Because people aren't taking out mortgages. Why? Because we had that huge problem in 2008 where there's millions of foreclosures. People lost their job. People lost 38% of their wealth, and they don't have money or credit right now. And what are we seeing? And we're following this all along now. And this is keeping to what the economy is actually doing. Right now, we are seeing sales of new U.S. homes are falling by 3.3% in February. Again, sales of new homes declined 1.1% over the last 12 months. Why is this happening? Because real estate is in a bubble. Those big players are getting out now. There's no one there to take up the slack. The big financial companies realize this. This is why they don't need the mortgage departments, because they know people don't have the money. They're not taking out the mortgages, and this is why they're bringing back adjustable rate mortgages, 100% financing, and even giving loans to subprime borrowers. And we're seeing this happen right in front of our face, just like we saw in 2008. There is absolutely no difference. Well, there is one difference. It's much, much worse right now. And U.S. home prices dip in January for the third straight month. So, again, things are not getting better. Case-Shiller Home Price Index declines for a third month, longest negative stretch since March 2012. January's reported surge in new home sales soared by 10% to 468,000, well above the expectation of 400,000. Remember that in January? Well, they're already starting to revise the numbers. They brought the numbers from 468,000 down to 455,000. But February's print was even worse, printing at 440,000, below the 445 expected. Again, the entire housing market is in a bubble. It was propped up by the Fed, by investment companies, by hedge funds. Banks were keeping real estate off the market to drive the prices up. And what are we seeing? Well, we are seeing median home price, after rising aggressively in 2013, has now continued to decline in recent months. It's continually going down, down, down. We saw this in I think it was the end of 2007, going into 2008, where we reached the peak, and then all of a sudden, prices of homes were falling. Realtors didn't know what was going on. They couldn't sell homes. They didn't have the crowd of people anymore coming to the houses. And this happened in all different areas at different times. But it did start, and they didn't understand this. They didn't understand why people weren't paying top dollar, bidding the prices up. And as we went throughout the year of 2008, prices slowly came down. People didn't know what was happening. They couldn't sell their homes. People were getting out of their homes because the prices were coming down. Their mortgages were higher than the prices, so they were just leaving their homes until we hit October, when everything fell apart, and we're seeing the same thing happen right now. Now, I talk about Common Core before in my other reports, and Common Core, it was developed to get everyone thinking the same way. They want the central bankers, I should say, the elite, the globalists, they all want people to be good workers. That's it. They don't want people to think on their own. They want people to understand certain things that they want them to understand, and they're teaching everyone in a certain way, not to have ideas, not to express yourself. And again, Common Core has gotten a really bad rap, so 3 states right now, Iowa, Florida, and Arizona, are going to rebrand the Common Core Standards Initiative with a different name. But again, it's the same exact thing. They can call it whatever they want. We know it's Common Core. But Indiana saying, forget this. We see what Common Core is. We do not want this. And Indiana's Governor Mike Pence affixed his signature to Senate Bill 91, a law ordering public K-12 schools across the Hoosier state to stop using the controversial education standards. And again, what he went on to say was, I believe our students are best served when decisions about education are made at the state and local level, because who knows your children the best? The communities, the state. When you bring it down to the local level, they know what they want to do. The federal government wants everyone educated the same way, and they're rewriting the Constitution, they're rewriting the history books, they're teaching things that absolutely do not make sense whatsoever. But at this time, 46 states and the District of Columbia began implementing all or part of the Common Core standards. And I've seen these Common Core, and it is awful. You have to remember, Common Core was not developed by educators. It was developed by, we don't exactly know who they are, but they have nothing to do with education. They didn't go around to all the states and all the counties and all the local municipalities and bring all these teachers together and all these educators together to come up with some type of educational standard curriculum. They didn't do that at all. It was a group of people in a small little room saying, this is what we want the next generation to be, dumbed down, and this is what they're doing right now. Now, everyone knows I am not for Obamacare whatsoever. I believe it's a cash grab. I don't believe it benefits the American people. And how do we know this? It's because they had to put penalties on Obamacare. They had to intertwine taxes into Obamacare. And I didn't see our fearless leaders sit down at a computer and get Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, which is the official name. They didn't do this. Why? Because they know it's terrible. The president kept his health insurance from the government. He didn't want the Affordable Care Act at all, because he knows what it is. It's not health insurance for the American people. And guess what? The American people, there was a poll that was taken around in 2014, and there were 60% believe Obamacare regulations will hike their health care costs in the long run. Well, of course it's going to, because they don't have the members in Obamacare. They thought if they put a penalty, it would drive everyone into health care. Well, I hate to say it, they forgot one important thing: the human being and their mind. People say, listen, that's the last thing I need right now. I don't have work. I have to put food on the table. I have to pay my rent, and you know what? I'm healthy right now. I don't need it. And this is what's been happening, especially with the youth of America. They're coming out of school. They don't have jobs. They have a part-time job living with their parents. The last thing on their mind is health insurance. And we understand why they're doing this, because they believe that after the war, they're going to recreate in their minds of what the United States should be. They don't want the Constitution. They want people taught a certain way, and they want them disarmed, and they're trying to do this every way possible. And right now, we can see different states enacting draconian gun laws, which are completely null and void according to the Second Amendment. And of course, New York is one of them. And we understand why they're doing this, because they're afraid when the collapse comes, these populated areas are going to rise up and go after the people in Washington and try to remove them. So they're trying to get all these populated areas and have all their weapons removed from them. And the SAFE Act in New York is having a problem because they don't have the database for ammunition set up. But almost like Obamacare, you leave anything to the government, it seems like they can never get anything done. And right now they were out there saying, "Oh, we have to have the SAFE Act. We need to have it. We need to have it as fast as we possibly can." Well, it's been over a year now, and they can't even get the database up and running. And again, they're out there saying that this law was bad to begin with. It was passed in the middle of the night in a message of necessity. And again, if it was so, if it were really a necessity, why is it taking over a year to implement the entire law? Because that's not what it's really about. It's about just disarming the American people. Now, Homeland Security, we know what Homeland Security is designed for. It is not designed to get the international or terrorists that are outside of the country. Homeland Security, DHS, is designed for domestic terrorists. This is what it was created for. It was created to control the American people. And right now, there were leaked Homeland Security documents, and they revealed details of a joint DHS-FEMA national exercise to take place this week, and one of the components of which revolves around an effort to counter online dissent by a group called Free Americans Against Socialist Tyranny. And again, this exercise is designed to evaluate readiness and preparation for a catastrophic incident, natural disaster, or a major act of terrorism. Some of the scenarios which will be in play during the exercise include a series of earthquakes, tsunamis, and nuclear weapon accident. And one important part of this is the Free Americans Against Socialist Tyranny, and this is a group that is against the government, that's talking about it on social media, that has alternative media, and they advertise anti-U.S. rhetoric focusing on the Department of Defense, as well as to recruit like-minded individuals to join their cause. And again, this is almost like the alternative media out there, or people who are putting videos up that show a different side of what's actually going on. And this is who they're targeting: those people who believe in the Constitution, that believe in the United States, that believe in the freedom of the press, the freedom to speak your mind, to own a weapon. These are the people that DHS is going after. And this is why they're setting all this up. This is why they're having all the exercises. This is why they're having the Real ID, and they want all the states to be compliant, because they need to have all your information shut up to a federal database. They want your fingerprint. They want your iris scan. They want your DNA sample. They're going to put an RFID chip in your driver's license to track you. Of course, they created this 100-mile constitutional free zone, which is, of course, there's no such thing. And there's going to be checkpoints there. And this is why they're doing this. This whole thing is to control the American people when the collapse comes. And this goes on to say that the fact that the DHS is focusing its cybersecurity efforts during a major national exercise not on targeting foreign state actors or terrorists, but on combating online dissent by conservatives is sure to increase concerns that federal agencies once again has libertarians, patriots, and small government activists in its crosshairs. And we can see this, and this is what they are doing. Now, the BRIC nations reject the sanctions against Russia over Ukraine, and of course Russia is part of the BRIC nations. And this goes on to say that the group of 5 major emerging national economies known as the BRICS has rejected the Western sanctions against Russia and the hostile language being directed at the country over the crisis in Ukraine. So what happened here? Well, the BRICS are out there speaking out, and all of a sudden S&P decides to cut Brazil's credit rating, just like S&P came out and cut Russia's credit rating. And we can see this is just a battle of economics, and this has been going on. Now, in Afghanistan, what we're seeing is that the Taliban militants carry out a deadly attack in a Kabul election office. And again, all of a sudden, we're seeing a rise of the Taliban, and we're seeing this happen. And this is good reason why the American military and the American government is saying, see, this is why we need to be there, to protect everyone there. And what happened was the Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack, which comes less than 2 weeks before Afghanistan holds presidential elections. And again, the Taliban have now vowed to use force to disrupt the April 5th presidential election. Again, we have to remember the government in Afghanistan is a puppet government that the United States put into place. Taliban, again, are the people of that country who want their country back. And all of a sudden, we're seeing the rise of terrorists, and it seems like it's in perfect timing for what is going on there. Now, Russia is out there and Crimea is out there saying that Ukrainian soldiers, they can leave Crimea at any time with or without their weapons. There is no problem with this. And this went on to say, we said a long time ago that Ukrainian military personnel may leave freely from the territory of Crimea. And this is coming from Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. So again, all this rhetoric and all this propaganda of they can't leave, they're keeping us captured, this is not what's going on. And if you look at the actions of Russia and Putin, this is not what he's done. He sat back, he let everyone come to him. He did not use force anywhere. But what's happening right now, the G8 is trying to kick out Russia, but they can't really do that. So what they're doing is they're suspending the G8, and they're going to rename it, I don't know, the G7. And again, the G7 is made up of the wealthy, I should say the poorest nations now, the ones that are in a lot of debt, and they're trying to get Russia out of the G8. And again, Russia is making other deals with other countries right now. If sanctions are imposed, again, Russia is in the process of making deals with China, North Korea, India, Brazil, Iran, Egypt, Syria, and again, this is only going to hurt Europe and the United States in the long run. Now, the Ukrainian government, what they're doing there is they are changing everything. The Ukrainian government has decided to revise the country's holidays. Thus, International Women's Day and International Workers' Day won't be celebrated any longer. Ukrainian Statehood Restoration Day and Ukrainian Army Day will be celebrated instead to show that they took over Ukraine, and they decided to change all the holidays. And the self-appointed Ukrainian government, again, they were not elected, and they're not holding elections right now because they understand if they do, they probably voted out, has decided to alter the calendar of Ukrainian holidays. Ukrainians will no longer celebrate holidays on March 8th and May 1st. However, new holidays will appear. Thus, February 20th will become Liberty Day, celebrated in honor of all the fallen Maidan heroes. So they are changing the entire country of Ukraine right now. It is not the same. They're completely molding it into what they want. And again, Ukraine is only the western portion right now, and the southern and the eastern, well, the southern is now part of Russia. Eastern wants a referendum to join Russia at this time. Now, we understand that Russia is pulling its money out of different countries that are owned by the private West Central Bank, and Russia's spending in Britain now slumps by 17% in February, and they pulled out a lot of their business and money out of this area. But what we're seeing an increase in is the Middle East. It's up 31%, and in China, it's up 23% because they are switching and maneuvering away from the Western world at this time. Now, we understand that Russia was making a deal with China to trade natural gas and oil, bypassing the dollar. Well, Rosneft has decided, this is a gas company in Russia. They are also now doing this with India. And Rosneft, world's top-listed oil producer by output, may join forces with Indian state-run Oil and Natural Gas Corp to supply oil to India over the long term, the Russian state-controlled company said on Tuesday. Rosneft CEO and ally of President Putin traveled to India on Sunday, part of a wider Asian trip to shore up ties with the Eastern allies at a time when Moscow is being shunned by the West over Crimea. The company said that the Indian conglomerate Reliance Industries also met and discussed potential cooperation in developing Russia's offshore resources viewed by Moscow as a source of future oil production growth. So this is a double whammy on the U.S. and the European nations. All of this is going to bypass the U.S. dollar, and this is going to put the U.S. in trouble. It's going to put Europe in trouble because, again, as I said before, when companies do not have to hold U.S. dollars, they do not keep it in reserve. They will use other currencies instead, and they will send those dollars back to the United States, and we will see inflation here because there will be more currency hitting the market here in the United States. Now, out in Syria, we understand that the rebels, the paid mercenaries controlled by the United States, Saudi Arabia, Israel, they are losing the war in Syria. And they are having a very rough time. And right now, the foreign-sponsored Syrian opposition has called upon Arab states to pressure the international community to supply militants fighting against the Damascus government with sophisticated weapons. Remember, they were promised these sophisticated weapons, and Ahmad Jabbar, who is the president of the so-called Syrian National Coalition, is making this call, and Saudi Arabia has reportedly agreed to provide foreign-backed militant groups in Syria with advanced weaponry. And again, we see this happening a lot. In Libya, they're making an international call for forces to help us with battling the rebels, which are the people of Libya, and we need help. And this is what they do. They make a call out, and they say, we need this, and then nations reply to the call, making it seem like they didn't have this set up all along. But we understand that Congress, behind closed doors, already said they're going to be shipping weapons to Syria. We already understand that Saudi Arabia said they are getting weapons for them. And here they are calling out for international help. And right now, they're going to get the weapons because a Western diplomat with knowledge of the weapons delivery told the Journal that new stuff is arriving imminently, and we understand why this is. We understand what they're trying to do, and again, you are going to see something happen because they've been building up military assets in Jordan. They have the CENTCOM base, which is the command center that will be used to strike into Syria, and they're not going to let these rebels fail. They want to get in there and remove Assad. This is their goal. They need to prop up the United States so they can get this war started. And if this starts the war, this starts the war. They really don't care how it starts because the players are all the same. It's Russia, it's China, it's North Korea, it's Iran, so it makes no difference to them. And they're trying every single angle. They're trying Ukraine, they're trying Iran, they're trying Syria, they're talking about North Korea, they're trying everything. And what's happening, since all this is going on, Russia's making deals, China is out there making deals, and China has just made a deal with Israel. Israel and China move forward with a $2 billion Red Med freight rail link to be used instead of the Suez Canal. The growing economic alliance between Israel and China is moving forward with a 2 billion 300-kilometer freight rail link connecting Eilat on the Red Sea with Ashdod Port on the Mediterranean. The project, nicknamed the Red Med, was greenlit by Netanyahu. And this goes on to say, I think China is looking more and more into the international market and doing business outside China. And yes, we do see this. They are setting up bilateral trade with many different countries. The last one was New Zealand, where they're setting up a bilateral trade to use the yuan. Again, they will bypass the dollar. We see this happening all over the place. And this goes on to say that goes for Africa, for Asia, for Israel, and the Middle East. And I think any foreign involvement in the Middle East is coming from the positive aspect. Again, All this is being set up, and this is a huge threat to the central bankers in the United States. Now, we understand, of course, Janet Napolitano reminded us when she was leaving office that it's not if, but when the power grid comes down. And we understand that they've been setting up smart meters. They've been trying to make the grid smarter and protect it. But that's not really what's happening here. The U.S. electric grid is constantly under attack despite attempts by utilities to boost physical security and cyber defenses. In 2013, a DHS cyber emergency team responded to more than 80 incidences involving energy companies. Now, efforts by utilities to make the electric grid smarter by deploying sensors, automation, and communications technology have created new ways for hackers to sabotage the electric grid. And while cybersecurity spending has increased to eliminate some weaknesses in the smart grid, this threat still remains, and they don't know what to do about it. So all this technology is giving these hackers, the CIA, U.S. government, backdoors into the system to create this false flag. And this is what we're seeing. I mean, all of a sudden, the NASDAQ, the stock exchange, the BAT system, they all have the kill switch implemented. They've already been telling us that Iran is the top 10 cyber threat now. That we see that Syria has chemical weapons hidden in the Alawite section of Syria, or biological weapons hidden there, and they could be used here. We see lone wolf groups who are being radicalized. DHS is having drills practicing against these people once martial law has been enacted. And right now, the president is out there, and he is saying that he is concerned, much more so, with a nuclear weapon exploding in Manhattan than he is with Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Well, first of all, he knows for a fact that Russia is not going to do anything. Just look at their actions. They have troops in Crimea. They were there before, 16,000 troops. They didn't bring any more in. Putin sits back and lets everyone come to him. This is what they've been doing. Right now, Russia has been making deals with China, been making deals with India and other nations, just in case the U.S. and the European nations implement sanctions on the country of Russia, which most likely they're not going to do right away, because this would implode Europe and the United States, and everyone would blame the central bankers and the U.S. government, because they would see, as soon as they implemented these sanctions, all of a sudden the economy started to turn down, and they would say, look what you did, and they're not going to go down this route. They rather have some type of event to take all eyes and put it on a different country. Now, why would Obama come out and tell everybody that he's more worried about a nuclear bomb in Manhattan? Well, the first reason is to keep us scared, to remove our rights, that there are terrorists out there and there could be some type of dirty bomb or nuclear weapon explosion somewhere in the country. Could be Manhattan. I doubt it, but it could be. It might happen in another city. They can't make them look too right when the event occurs. Secondly, he needs everyone to think, and he didn't name anyone, to think, where would this come from? Who are these terrorists? Is it Al-Qaeda? They've been mentioning that a lot. Lone wolf groups running around, bomb makers? Maybe it's them. Again, this is all bringing this together for the next event, because he realizes, the central bank realizes, that the economy is collapsing. They will not let this collapse and be blamed on them. They will create this event, and they understand they're going to have to put the power out in certain areas, because this will take care of the cyber attacks, where they can blame it on Syria, they can blame it on Iran. A dirty bomb nuke going off in Chicago or Manhattan, in LA, could be blamed on Iran. Who knows, maybe it's an all-out doomsday event scenario where they really want to get this war started, because this whole system is about to come down. This is what they've been planning. We can see from all the indicators and from all the evidence and everything that they've been doing, they are losing the battle in the Middle East. They are losing the war in Syria. They're losing the war in Ukraine. They are just plumb out losing right now, and their backs are against the wall. They don't know what to do. So their next action, their next tactic is to bring an event here to the United States soil and have everyone go, oh my God, look what just happened, and it will be very easy for them to blame it, and they'll come out right away. They'll know exactly who it was, where we need to go, and who we need to fight. And the American people, when they see the blood, this horrific event occur, their savings are gone, they're blacked out, news is trickling out, martial law is enacted, we have radicals inside the country where DHS is on the move, trying to find them, and this whole thing will start to make sense. And we all know what's happening, but the rest of the people will believe the Kool-Aid. They will believe what's going on, and they will beg for war, and World War III will start. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.